if you choose joyful approach and curiosity, there will always be amazing things that you can discover around you every day.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host, my name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the whole universe. Today on the show, we have Sara Kaźmierczak, the creative intuitive coach and hypnotherapist. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you so much. What an awesome intro. Seriously, it really already opened my heart. Amazing. Right this moment, I'm amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm super excited to talk to you, especially that we had to postpone it because we were both quite sick. But today we can talk and our throats are open. Finally, after so many hours just in bed, freaking dying with a fever, now we are here and we are alive. So we're doing this, which is great. So,
exactly.
Yes. So let's start with a little bit of a backstory. I'm super curious to know, how did you become the intuitive creative coach, and what has started your journey? What has inspired you to be on this path of a coach and helping people? What is your story? Please share with us.
Whew. It's a bit of a long story, but I'll try to condense it because it started quite early in my teen years when I feel like my heart was so open that I couldn't contain it. And at some point, I was diagnosed with depression. However, I wasn't helped by anyone who would talk to me, or I wasn't even sent to a psychologist or any sort of therapist. I was just giving pills. And that was probably the moment when I realized that there must be something more, that there must be something more that I can do to not end up in that space where I can't lift a finger, where I'm not unmotivated to do anything. That was around the age of 18 and lasted for a good 3 years. But around the age of 21, I moved to London and I met some awesome people who really inspired me to study psychology. Two of my best friends, two Polish guys actually that I met in London, they were already studying psychology. And when I was hearing their conversations, how they were exploring deeper thoughts, and how their conversations were just touching on things that normally people don't talk about, I felt like, ooh, I want more of that. I want to understand more about what happens with my brain, what happens with me. Why did I even go into this state? What really happens? And so I studied for 4 years part-time while still working, which was pretty heavy, but I have no regrets because I've learned so much. I really, really love the fact that I've done it, because I was a few times I thought that I'm not going to finish it and it's just too much. But it gave me a really good base to understand how people, how it works that we go to different states and different how the emotions work, how we get ourselves in a bad situation and how we can bring ourselves back. But that was just one side. I felt like psychology wasn't giving me the full story, and it was just very sort of dry understanding of scientists, which is necessary if you're trying to explore new territories. You do have to combine the knowledge of other scientists and researchers and bring it together to see what you can take for yourself. However, it was missing this soul aspect that was always very present in my life. My heart was the most important thing for me, because it was always guiding me to places where I needed to be, or where things that I needed to learn were. And psychology was just not giving me the full story, because I was still feeling certain feelings, but rationalizing and just talking about it in a way therapists would was not really giving me the result that I needed. My emotional self was still sort of going back to these old patterns. And yes, you get to understand how subconscious mind works and how to deal with your subconscious beliefs, which is what led me eventually to do hypnotherapy, because I found that it's the fastest way to show people how therapy works. It's like therapy on steroids. So it's the quickest way to show people how all our experiences and all the things that we made ourselves believe in reaction to the world around us from a very early age, like how that shaped the way we see the world around us right now in present moment. Because every single one of us has a different perception of the world around us. There's no two people who see exactly identically the same. And it's fascinating for me to be able to show people how, like, something that they thought that they knew is causing their issue started way before, sometimes even in the womb, or sometimes people spontaneously go to a past life, which just happens. I don't know if it's just me, but it just happens spontaneously that they go back to the source, that sometimes it's in a different lifetime, and they're like, I don't know where I am, but it's not this time. And it's really amazing for me that we can explore something more, because sometimes our issues are not only from our experiences in here. Sometimes they take us a longer time, and we just need to break the pattern. But wow, I've gone so far because literally I can talk about it forever. However, let's go back to psychology and hypnotherapy. I felt that these two things are my tools. However, what my heart loves the most is being the support for people who, as we said before, feel kind of lonely. They don't know how they can connect to other people who are like them. When you start to open up to the ideas that you really don't know what to do with, because there's so much in the world of spirituality, it's really necessary, I would say, to have people like you so you don't think that you're crazy. And I want to be that guide. I want to be that person who walks with other people for a period of time when they need that support, because I was never given tools to deal with certain things. And I really, really think that once we get a certain level of understanding, there's nothing we can't do. Like, all we need is tools to work with ourselves and with our emotions, and then we can go anywhere. So
Yes.
that's how I became intuitive and creative coach and hypnotherapist.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this story. It's really inspiring. And I'm super curious to know, how did you manage to get out of depression? Like, what are your ways, maybe a few tips for people to get out of this negative state of mind, this negative spiral that you're in, and just more into the positive and high vibes? And I know that there's probably many methods to do that, but
Mm,
I would love you to share the most effective according to you, like what has helped you on your journey the most.
mm. So it's definitely coming back to my heart. I feel like where I was at the time when I got depressed, I was only in a limited sort of, I was perceiving myself with the eyes of people around me. That was my limit. I couldn't go beyond that, because I couldn't see myself be anyone else than who people were seeing me as. And coming to London allowed me to explore who I want to be, the way I am, not the way people see me for, not the way my mom wants me to be, not the way my friends want me to be, not the way anyone else wants me to be. Who am I as me? Because for me, depression was not trusting my heart, allowing myself to, like, burdening myself with how I was hurting people because I was trying to stand in my own little space. I was trying to create boundaries, but I didn't understand that they were boundaries. And so in reaction, if someone got hurt, I was taking it so personally because I would never want anyone to suffer because of me or to get hurt because of me. And trying to lie to myself about who I am, or not seeing the perspective of who I could become, was really bringing me down. I could not see myself after uni, because I studied English linguistics at uni in Jalanagura, where I'm from, for a bit, and I just could not see myself. What am I going to do after this? Am I going to become a teacher? That just doesn't sound right. I was only doing the things that were easiest for me, but they were not the ones that were inspiring me, the ones that were making me feel just good with myself, that this is something that I can do, that I should do, that makes me feel just open-hearted and full and like charged with energy to really go through life happy. And of course, there's ups and downs in life, but if you choose joyful approach and curiosity, there will always be amazing things that you can discover around you every day. Of course, there also will be, because once it goes up, it will go down. That's another thing. Understanding that life is not only about all the beautiful, amazing things. As many things as we have on this side, there will always be the other side, which has the difficult emotions to process, the situations which are heartbreaking, that we will need to learn how to go through, how to find tools that will help us to go through difficulties, to get stronger on the other side. So that would be the two things: following your heart and tuning in to what your heart is telling you, and understanding that there will always be ups and downs. It's just how whether we choose to be on the high and then get to the lows, or just try to be more in the middle and be more of an observant person who can either go this way or this way.
Thank you for sharing. That's really cool. And yeah, I also believe that you can really expand your, let's say, stretch your ability to go through the feelings, in terms of like the deeper you go into your negative emotions, the easier it is for you to go through them. So at some point you end up similar to me right now, where I'm just like, okay, when I'm triggered, it's not really pleasant to me, but also I'm not like, oh my god, I'm triggered again, it's so bad. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna feel even better after I go through the trigger. So I'm actually like, let's say, positively I have a positive attitude towards the negativity, because I know that when I heal it, it's going to be even better for me. So I don't have this approach as I did a few years ago, like, oh no, I feel bad. Oh, it's so shit. Oh no, it's my ego again, or whatever, right?
End of the world.
It's just more like, okay, let's welcome whatever it comes. And then, like, I am personally a person who likes going through ups and downs more so than staying in neutral place. I'd rather be super excited and then super disappointed than stay in neutrality.
Same.
That's just how I am. But it depends on the person, right? Some people prefer to do it in more transcendental way, where they just practice non-duality and they just go beyond, good and bad, and beyond the everything, and they're just aware that they are the consciousness behind anything that happens. And that's also a way to dissolve the emotion in a way, because you are more tuning into and tapping into the universe, or the God consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. So you can really just let anything pass by and still have preferences then, but without attachment to whatever happens. But to me, the way is to just really dive into the feelings, and into good and bad feelings, because if you allow and have a positive approach to any feeling, then anything that happens is okay for you, because it's like, of course not everything is pleasant, but everything is okay, because you know that you're going to be fine, because you can go through an emotion. So I think that this flexibility, this stretching and expanding more and more, and allowing your nervous system to get used to going into negative emotions as deeply as you possibly can, that also can be a way to get out of it. Because at some point, like, if you go down in your emotional state, you cannot go further down. you're on the bottom, so then you can only go up. So I feel like this practice, in a way, to feel your emotions is a good practice too, because then you're like, yeah, okay, whatever emotion happens, it's fine for me. I'm able to handle anything. So that's just something that I'd like to add to that.
No, I definitely 100% agree, because pushing down your emotions is just making it worse, because at some point it's going to open up, and all of it, everything you push down, is going to come at once. So you either deal with it as it comes, or you push it down and then you cry for 2 weeks not knowing what the hell is going on, because you're just crying and crying and releasing it, but you just don't think about it, that it's all the stuff that you push down that you never allowed yourself to experience. But I also wanted to add this thing about being kind of in the upper chakras, so feeling more connected to the universe rather than being on Earth. That's a very interesting thing, because I realized that a lot of the times I was going up rather than bring everything from the upper chakras down to manifest in the real world. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, that once you open up the higher chakras and once you open up to the higher energies, you also need to bring it into the body, because we're not meant to just go up. We're here on this planet for a reason. We have to keep upgrading our body with the higher energies by bringing it down and integrating it into the body. Because otherwise we're just feeling like we're not meant to be here. And that's not the way we should be feeling. So I would just add that before we move on to that, because we're actually going there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. And when at the beginning of my spiritual development, it was like, yeah, I just want to go higher and higher in my chakras. But now I know that it's about wholeness, not about one or the other. It's about, we are the channel between the divine and the earth, and we are meant to open up fully. So focusing on higher chakras, actually, if someone is not grounded, is quite dangerous, because someone can
It
just
is.
go out there to the universe, but then kind of seem a little crazy, because they can be so not in here that they might be not attuned to everyone and the surroundings and so on. So yeah, it's could be quite dangerous. So yeah, I'm with you on that completely. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It's quite important to talk about. But I also would like to touch upon this theme, because I know that some people might not know what is the difference between an emotion and a feeling.
Okay, so emotion is very highly energetically charged. Emotion is energy in motion. So you get spikes of energy going through your body, going through your brain, through your energy system, really, which are very sort of abrupt. You can instantly feel anger in response to something. You can instantly feel happy because someone gave you the most amazing smile. These are the sort of these are the sort of moments where you experience in the present moment a change of energy in your body. I'm sure from psychological point of view, you could say that it's the chemicals in your brain and blah 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 that change the way you. But I'm not going to say that, because that's for me not the whole story. As Tesla once said, when you want to understand the laws of the universe, think in terms of energy and frequency. And this is for me the understanding of the wholeness, because brain is just one aspect. Our heart and our brain together create a magnetic field. So if we think about what happens from that electromagnetic point of view, that gives us a better understanding how, for example, if I feel happy, someone else can feel like smiles when they see me, or when you walk into a room and someone was fighting and you're like, oh, that is a bit of a sticky situation here. What's going on? I can sense it straight away. So you can feel emotions are sort of like sending signals out. Feelings would be a little bit longer and sort of lingering. You can feel good today. You can feel sad, not knowing why, and then you have to tend to this feeling to dig deeper to find out what it is. It's not just going to show up and, it's not going to be as abrupt as emotion. Feeling is more of a information that you need to go in and find out what it is about. If it's something that doesn't feel nice, if it's a good feeling, well then, just swim in it and bathe in it. But that's what comes to me right now. I don't know if I would have more to really explore about well, I mean, there's always a lot to talk about emotions. But when it comes to the difference, I think that this is what I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because I feel like everyone sees emotions and feelings a little bit differently. I mean, everyone talks about emotion being energy in motion, and I agree with that. It is energy in motion, but I perceive, and I might be also, that might be also a different definition and different perspective, as sometimes people have different definition of like consciousness, for example, or different definition of this or that. And for me, I feel like emotion is this energy in motion, and it's something that you can like name in terms of like, okay, sadness or happiness or confusion or whatever, whereas feeling to me it's more like a sensation. Like, for example, you can feel the feeling of like heaviness in your heart, or you can feel the squeeze in your stomach, or you can feel like the feeling of, it's more like a sensation in the body. And to me, feeling can be also based on different emotions. So you can feel a feeling that is going to be a mix of, let's say, guilt and shame and powerlessness, or a mix of a sadness and grief and, I don't know, frustration or whatever. It could be like a mix of different emotions, but it comes as a sensation in the body. Because if I will run the work that I do, it's called completion process, where you really focus on the feeling in your body, which is like the sensation. Okay, is it cold, is it hot, is it heavy, is it light, is it like, what does it look like, what color does it have? And this is what we're describing, is more of a feeling. And then emotion can be also, a feeling can be also one emotion, but to me it can also be many emotions at once. And so that's how I would see the difference between this and that, because I feel like, normally people don't really talk about it. They just use it like as the same thing. But I feel like it's a little bit different, actually, if you think about it. But you can approach it from different perspectives, I think. But I think it's important also to differentiate between like the feeling and the sensation, because sometimes we're like, yeah, I feel that this person is angry, for example, but actually you might sense it, really, because we say I feel, but like I feel, it's like as if you had a feeling in your body, so you kind of like sense it, right, rather than feel it. It's just the language in English, I think it's a little bit, I think in Polish even we don't really have correct language to
But I think
describe
that
it.
the answer is in the name itself, because once you started talking about it, I was just like, well, feeling through the senses, you experience it receiving or feeling it in your, so that could probably be higher chakras and lower chakras. You have like energy going through your system, but the feelings are the way you feel, like you said, sense with the senses. So I 100% agree. This is more what you feel in the body. Like there will be some emotions in that, but it will be experienced by your body, whereas emotion would be more experienced by your energy system, by your, I would even say your other senses and your heart, by the
Mm-hmm.
field that you are in, by your aura. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a very interesting thing, because it adds a layer for me as well to seeing seeing it from a different perspective. So thanks for saying that. It kind of gives me a visual image of it. I love it.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I'm a visual person, so I need visual images for everything, which is great. So you were
Same.
mentioning the heart space quite a lot. So what is your method for connection with your heart space?
So many. Because it's so individual. Really, it's the simplest way is something that we already know, because it's present in every single religion. You connect to your heart space by touching the heart space, whether it's in the prayer, whether it's putting your hands on your chest. It's touching on that space and giving it, allowing yourself to feel what's in there. That is like the most basic thing. And when we're touched by something, we sometimes like touch the heart space, it's like, oh, that's so sweet, right? Or when we are sad, our shoulders will kind of go down, because we are trying to protect our heart space. Or we're
Mm-hmm.
feeling great, and when we're feeling expansive and we have really good vibe, we're gonna put our chest out and just walk down the street with like head up and open heart space. So first thing, it's always paying attention to what is when we send our attention to that space. It's the same like with any other part of the body. First, we need to stop and pay attention. Just shift our attention like in meditation, right? First, we have to get from the outside world into our inner world. And if we just close our eyes and begin to slow down our breath and put our hand on our heart and just set an intention of connecting to our heart and feel what is there now? What sort of feelings or sensations or emotions are coming to mind with no judgment? Just allow them to come to surface so you can experience what's in there. In my heart, there's a lot of gratitude right now and a lot of hope and brightness, because I feel that connecting to like-minded people is really charging me to be able to do what I do. And it's just very subtle. I think that when we allow ourselves to shut the world around us off and go in, which is not something that we do very often. And nowadays, when our attention is being pulled to social media, TV, every single thing possible outside of ourselves, we don't go in, because meditation becomes more difficult when we're overstimulated all the time, anywhere we look. It's finding that space of stillness, touching the heart space, and asking yourself the question, because all the answers we have inside, we just need to allow it to come. Allow ourselves to get the answer and trust that this is what we need to hear. That we're not lying to ourselves, that you ask the question, the answer will come up. Whether you like it or not, this is what you need to hear right now. But there are also many other ways. Grounding ourselves, connecting to nature really tunes us in, because nature's pace is so much slower than the world that we live in. And when we tune ourselves in to the slower pace, just even seeing green color, like the heart chakra color, like really brings us closer to that space, because it's the space in the middle between the lower chakras, which ground us on this planet, and the higher chakras, because Earth's consciousness is really, it's really soothing for us. It's Mother Earth for a reason. It really connects us to that space in there, because it's like a motherly love. We just feel that love and that peace, and that everything is fine. Everything is going to be okay. I am here on Earth. I can touch it with my fingers. I can touch it with my feet. And just breathing is the best way to just bring yourself back to the body. So that would be probably my favorite way. But as I said, for everyone, depending where we are, it's going to be slightly different, because that might be a bit far out for someone who's very, very busy right now and like doesn't even, find a minute to themselves in their day. That's going to be like, what? I can't even like meditate for a minute. And in that case, it would be starting with closing your eyes and breathing for a minute a day, every day. Just see what sort of place you want to connect to, what it feels like to be in that space, and then just evolve from there.
Amazing. And I have one thing to add to that that just comes to me. I've already shared it on the podcast, but I would like to repeat for anyone who haven't heard it. I love what my number one mentor, Teal Swan, says. And she says like this: whatever you do, if you have any decision to make or any step to take or whatever, then you ask yourself, what would someone who loves themselves do? And then you base your actions and your decisions and your behaviors on that, because then you really connect to your heart and you connect to your own love. And it's not like, okay, I need to love myself to know it, because then, oh, I love myself, so I'm going to do that. It's like, no, what would someone who loves themselves do? And it's not personal to you. So if someone struggles with self-love, it's just more like an imaginary, oh, someone there who loves themselves, what do they do? Or kind of like, what would Jesus do? What would Buddha do?
I used to do the same thing. I would always ask myself, what would I expect my best friend, like bestest friend who knows me the most in the whole world, what would I want her to tell me to do about this? Knowing that she knows me exactly and she wants the best for me. So I totally resonate with this. Yeah.
Hmm. Perfect. And so, talking
Mm.
about the heart space and so on, I was thinking to maybe touch upon this topic of emotional attunement, because I've had recently a situation where I felt like a person wasn't attuned to me, and I was wondering maybe if you could give any tips for just developing the emotional attunement to another person, like how to do it, because some people are just simply not very empathetic, not because they don't want to, it's just because they had so much trauma and maybe they have treated emotions as weakness and they just don't really know how to break through this wall of like, okay, I'm not attuned to these people, it's just blindly based on intellect and action, but emotional center is not very developed. So what would you say to these people?
I meet a lot of them really on every day. But I feel that if we don't look inside, if we don't show them by example of, like, in a conversation, we have to choose the language that we use speaking to a person. From person to person, it's going to be slightly different depending on their level of understanding of all that we are. So everything energetic, everything spiritual. Not a lot of people will be able to have a conversation like we do. So then the language changes, and using the right language of saying, for example, if a person would ask me a question that I don't like, or a question that would be too invasive, I would set a boundary, but tell them, you know what? I understand where you're coming from and that you probably meant something like this, but the way you asked this question was not very nice because it was charged with this. It made me feel like you're being too, like, or you're imposing it on me, or you're being too aggressive with it. But I know that you mean well. And when you start to talk about emotions, they're like, if if they are open to getting tuned in to this sort of emotional world, they will start to pick up when you start naming emotions. They start to recognize them within themselves. So someone who has been told their whole life, that, emotions are weak, or you should never cry, or like never express your emotions. You can always find soft spots. You can always find something that's going to move them, touch them. And being in this space of um, openness and this loving space of having the intention of like, what can I do in this situation to help this person understand a little bit more about themselves, helps you to find the right words to get to them, because words is something that's going to be the first contact. Because if they don't work on themselves, the only thing you can do is to speak and be in your vibration. But there still will be people who are triggered by your high vibration because they don't understand that they can be there too. They think that, like, oh my God, who is this person being so happy all the time? Like, that's not real. You can't be like that all the time, because they just have not been taught that they can do it too. But if during conversation, you can always give them sort of guidance of what they could do. Because if they don't feel their emotions, their own emotions, how are they supposed to feel anyone else's? The first step is always looking inside, because what we can't control within ourselves, we're pointing out in the world around us. We're saying to this person, this person is doing this, but actually we're projecting what we have inside of us. So the first thing, I would always say meditation. I know that it's boring because it's not like, ooh, you're gonna do this and then all of a sudden everything's gonna open up. But really, everyone has their own pace. So we need to do it with love and care for ourselves. It's turning inwards is the first step to find out what's inside of us. First, sort of contact with ourselves, Because if we haven't been looking inside, there's so much in there. We need to start processing it little by little. And having conversations with people who are more aware of the emotions is helping us to kind of navigate through it, because this person is going to show you that this is this emotion, or like when you speak to that person and say like, oh, this made me feel like you wanted to do this, or like this was a little bit aggressive, they will realize like, oh, maybe if I say it in this way, it would be received differently. So I feel that the only thing we can do is really to inspire them, inspire people to look inside to find the peace that we have, because they don't see it the way we do, and they don't think that it's available to them unless they can experience it. And if they're not ready, they're not going to want to be in our space. If they're ready, they're going to try to get the most from being around us. So first, meditation, and see whether this is something that you are ready to do for yourself, because there has to be a decision with everything, whether it's with coaching or it's with hypnotherapy, like, or any sort of therapy. It's our decision whether we want to do it or not. That is the most important thing, because without it, someone can send us to therapy, but it's not going to be the same. We have to make that choice. I want to feel better. I want to be happier in life. I want to go through this shit that I like, the whole baggage that I carry on my back for so and so years, and I'm going to get rid of this. Life is beautiful and I want to experience its beauty, and I'm going to do whatever is necessary. And there's so many people and more every day who can help you with that, but it has to start with a decision.
Absolutely, because you cannot make someone change if they don't want to change, which is, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I would add to that I feel like people who want to be emotionally attuned to other people need to be willing to feel everything, not only good things, but also bad things, because you cannot be attuned just to good things, right? If you want to be attuned to someone, you need to be willing to feel how they feel. And sometimes people can feel shit. And then you need to be open to feeling shit, right? So if you want to be attuned to someone, you need to be open to feeling like shit sometimes, which I think is important to mention, because we are so used to like suppressing and resisting and disowning all the negative stuff. But if you want to be attuned to someone and really understand them on the deepest level, you need to be willing to do that.
Yeah, but also when you set boundaries, like, we also have to look after what we are capable of tuning into. Because if you are in a space where you feel if you go there, it's too much for you, it's also very important to build sort of boundaries. Yes, we are here to attune to each other's emotions, but when you look at it from more of a neutral perspective, you can see in this emotion things that this person cannot, because they're deep in the sensation of it, deep in the feelings of it. So you are sort of this more of a centered aspect of that emotion if you set the boundary. So I feel that this is also a way to look at it, but because yes, you have to be open to experiencing both, but also you have to look after yourself, because I've done that. I've been tuning into people way too much because I'm an empath. I just feel these things, and a lot of the times I would think that they're my own, but they weren't. They were other people's, and then I'm dealing with the shit, and other people feel great because now they don't, like, it kind of, I got some of it, but then I have to process it. So boundaries are super important, and that's something that we're not being taught. We have to grow
Mm-hmm.
into it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because you can go really, really on a downward spiral if you're taking on everyone's negative stuff and then you never clear yourself or never put boundaries. So that's really important. Thank you for mentioning that. And I also wanted to touch upon this theme, because before we started recording, you said that the theme of integrity is very alive for you recently. So I wanted to ask you, like, how to develop integrity, and what does integrity mean for you as well?
This is something very close to my heart, because I realize that sometimes I say something to my clients as a sort of, I'm showing them a tool that I am not using in practice. I'm showing them a tool that I know because I have it too, but I just don't use it when I need it. And I realize, but wait a second. My words, my feelings, what I do, like, and what I say to them, it's not matching. Like I have to be the thing that I'm talking about. It's not just about showing myself as a certain person. It's being that person and doing the things that I talk about. Because otherwise, I am building a personality that's not aligned with me. And when it's not aligned with me, it doesn't come from the heart. And so I find that sometimes people lack of that integrity. People who are either either therapists or coaches. There are people who don't feel like they're connecting from the heart. They are doing the things. They are being spiritual. They are being like very soothing and they're very knowledgeable. But there's some slight disalignment for me that shows me that it's not 100% them, that something's off. And for me, it's the most important thing to be that person who says what they do and does what they say, to
Who walks
make
their talk.
exactly, to hold myself accountable, to be that
Mm-hmm.
person. Because why am I telling someone to do it if I'm not doing this? Why am I like, there's many layers to it. Because also, if a person is not standing in their own power and doesn't integrate all these things, it just hovers around them in their energy field, but they're not bringing it in, as what we were talking about before. They're not bringing it in from the upper chakras down to become that. But it's like with any sort of manifestation. What Joe Dispenza is talking about is creating the vision of your future and then embody it. Bring it into your body and make it right here, right now. So that's not just about being 100% yourself and coming into the world with like, this is who I am, and whatever I do is who I am. Because we're taught to have masks, because we have a mask for our family when we have to behave at a family dinner. We have a mask for people at work where we have to behave certain way. And that kind of takes away a little bit, because from that whole self, because then we're getting a little bit lost. But wait a second, I have to be like this there, but it's not me, but I have to be like this. So that's why it's very important to tune in to yourself and connect to that heart space, because that's what reminds us who we truly are and who we want to be and what we want to be doing. So that integrity is the most important thing for me. This is what I always teach my clients, because teach, I don't like the word teach, because it's not really like, it puts me in a position like I know more than anyone else. It's not about that. It's reminding, because that's what we really do. We're all walking each other home, right? So it's being that sort of like a friend that you go to talk about something that happened to you, and you just want to let it off your chest, and you need some support, and you need to talk it through. This is kind of what it is more like. But the reminder of coming back to who you really are and who you want to practice to be. Do you want to practice being the way someone expects you to be, or do you want to practice being who you want to be? Because then who are you going to blame? You're going to blame your parents, your bosses, your friends that they wanted you to be like this? Or you're going to blame yourself that you didn't let yourself to experience life as you, 100%, exactly the way you are. And that doesn't mean that you can hurt people or be an asshole and be just like, well, this is the way I am. No, that's not how it works. Because when you're being mean to someone else, Yet again, what does it mean? Something inside needs to be healed because people are not being assholes to you. You have something inside that needs to be addressed. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. You attract who you are. So this sort of this sort of approach allows you to see what is still in you, people that you surround yourself with. You see like what sort of energetic and vibrational match you have in people around you. But also, if you surround yourself with the right people, you are also bringing yourself more to that space of being true to yourself, because they will inspire you to be more you. They will remind you that, do you really want to do that, or is this your mind telling you that you should do that because of this and that? So yeah, I think integrity is a process of just reacquiring yourself, taking it away from the ideas of who you should be and bringing it back and like checking with yourself. Do I want to be like this? Nah, I'm changing this and bringing this as my power back to myself. And then all of a sudden, people are going to be like, ooh, who is this person? How is she so, like, feeling so good in her own body and feeling so, like different? Something's different about you, right? People always say that something's different. What is it? You just feel different. But that's what it is. When you stand in your power, you are vibrating your power, your frequency to the world around you. And people are either gonna want to be around you, or they're gonna be triggered and they're gonna run away. Either way, you win.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's a win-win scenario. That's
Yeah.
that's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like integrity is a very important topic, and it is a reminder for all of us to really listen to our hearts and to do whatever is aligned with us, because so many times we just do whatever we have programmed in our subconscious mind, which is not really the truth of who we are and not the alignment that we want to be in. So really, thank you so much for bringing it up. So I have one last little question to you. If people would like to find your content and contact you, maybe they would like to work with you because they really vibe with you, what's the best way to find you?
So definitely on Instagram under Sara Emotional Alchemist. And website which is currently under construction, but it's saraalexandra.com. And I think it's even better to do it over Instagram, because that's my main source main place where I connect to people, and it's the space where I can sort of express all these thoughts in my little stories, in my little posts, and you can already find a lot of what I talked about here in the posts on my feed. So yeah, definitely these two places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This conversation was really great. I feel like all the listeners would really love it when they listen to it. I hope so, at least, because I loved
Me
it.
too.
So thank you so much again for being on this podcast and agreeing to share your beautiful energy with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank you.